we often think of cognitive decline as memory loss, language difficulties, maybe abnormal behavior like cranky and irritable. And essentially what's happening biochemically in the brain is that there's advanced loss of brain cell connections. There's clumps of tangled fibers in the brain. And we often associate this with loss of mental and physical independence. Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepic, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Hey friend, welcome back to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your health coach and host, Jenn Trepic, here with you every week for Wellness Without the Weirdness. Guess who's back with us? Cindy, a longtime listener and podcast member. It's been a while. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, I love chatting with you.
It is always fun. Our time goes way too fast when we're together.
It does. It does. So today, we're going to talk about memory and what used to be known as age-related cognitive decline, which is the way I can talk about something without saying a disease state. So we can put those words together, although I'm not going to lie. I think I'm going to end up saying this disease by the time we get to a certain point in this conversation. But I will say, so it used to be known as that. It's still really known as age-related cognitive decline, but it's happening younger and younger. So it's actually now recommended that we start working toward actively reversing and preventing cognitive decline by age 40. I know, I see your jaws on the floor. So typically the years ago, right, up until more the last 10 to 15 years, the typical person showing up with these symptoms was in their 70s. Right now, the typical person showing up with these symptoms is a 52-year-old menopausal woman.
I believe.
Yeah. So I have the feeling that this will be just the first of our episodes on this topic. I actually have a doctor and researcher in mind to reach out to for us to dig more into this. But we're going to get into it today. And I know I shocked everybody, so let that sink in.
I'm not being a very good guest because my mind is already boggled and we just started.
I know. I promise I have more and we're going to get to the bottom of it. It's going to be a lot clearer, right? Really quick though, before we get too deep, I want to tell our members what they're getting. All right. So members, your recipe this week is for Green Goddess Spring Salad. So May is National Salad Month, which is why this week you're getting another salad. But this one, it is beautiful. It's also delicious and easy. It has mandarin oranges in it too. So it's bright. And like I said, it's the spring salad. So it's very seasonal, a little sweet, a little savory. And the dressing, make extra, keep it in your fridge. It's delicious. And related to today's episode, I'm also sending you an article from our friends at Levels. This article is called, "Is Fructose Behind Alzheimer's Disease?" So the article digs into a study from 2023. And by the way, before you all go wild about this headline, it's about intracerebral fructose or fructose in the brain. Doesn't mean stop eating fruit. Okay, so I just want to put that out there. But our members are getting that article to get the whole story. So you can read more about it in your email on Friday. Cindy, you were a longtime member, and you shared with me recently some amazing success stories with the recipes that you get.
Yes.
Well, and from listening too. So feel free to share what you want to share.
Why you should be a member immediately.
Well,
right?
Sure. That also what's happened for you and your husband as a result of making the recipes.
All of the sneaky recipes. Well, we know that my husband is not like healthy recipes. So I kind of backdoor things. And it's gotten to that point where he asks, is this a Jenn recipe? And I tell him, no, it's not. I just found it. In the meantime, he's been eating the not Jenn recipes and he's lost 30 pounds.
There you go. Not doing anything else.
No, nope. Just eating better has changed. He's lost that 30 pounds. He has no idea how that happened. It just came off. He doesn't know what he's doing.
You know.
I know. I know. So just slowly making those changes in our diet has made a huge change. And he's lost that 30 pounds since January. So it came on very, very quickly for him. Not so much for me, but I wasn't necessarily following you for the weight loss tips, just more for the health tips.
Yep.
And I think when you and I first started our one-on-ones, I was a basket case and didn't even know where to start. So you got me started on I think we talk about a lot about just hitting the bullseye, throw that dart, find one place. And that's been amazing. I just had blood work done and a visit with my cardiologist. And for the first time in 10 years, he was like, I'll see you in a year. Like, I don't even have to go back for like that regular 6-month checkup. He'll see me in a year because all of the changes that I've made, small at first, have made me a healthier person. That shows in my blood work. It shows just in my energy level, obviously my husband's energy level. And I say that's just from following you and following the tips. I always try to find one thing in an episode that I like and I think, oh, I could do this. And each time, once it becomes a habit, we try something new or I add something new. I've never been full on, this is what we're doing. We're cleaning this out of the house. I still have Reese's peanut butter cups in my lunchbox. Occasionally I have one, but it's not even where I have one regularly. They're there, and I often share them more than I eat them.
I love it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. And, this whole story reminds me of when we first connected and you shared the first episode that you listened to was It Takes Heart, which was all about the cardiovascular health stuff. And look at you now.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's huge. I don't even have words for it. Just the excitement when I walked out of the cardiologist's office and was like, I'll see you in a year.
Yeah.
Like everybody in the office was like, yes, you go. They were so excited.
That's awesome.
That's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
It is.
Enjoy it. Yeah. Congratulations. And you did all of that. It's awesome.
A little at a time. Consistency. I think you talk about it often, the consistency. There were days when I'm like, yeah, I ate the peanut butter cup. I didn't feel bad about it. I enjoyed it. And that was
onward.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. And to your point of where you started this, especially for your husband, right? The recipes are super helpful to make those little tweaks.
Yes. Yes. Like we love the tacos. Now we're making them into taco salads. And I sneak avocado into everything he eats.
There you go. Doing the thing. So friends, if you want these recipes, if you want the articles, if you want the one-on-ones or the group Q&As, here's what you do. You go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries for $10 a month. You get weekly recipes, monthly articles or tools, extra discounts from me and our partners, plus access to live Q&A sessions. It's a total deal. When you take advantage of those full offerings, you're saving far more than that $10 cost. It's seriously a no-brainer way to show yourself that your health is a priority. Plus, by being a member, you're supporting this podcast and this community so we can continue to do this with you every week. So remember, you're going to go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries, or just click the link in the show notes. Once you're there, you click support now, enter your email and payment info, click subscribe. And you're good. You're going to get this week's recipe for the Green Goddess Spring Salad. And the article is Fructose Behind Alzheimer's Disease. Okay, Cindy, let's take a step back. I told you we were talking about memory. What was your first reaction?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
What are you noticing about yours?
I'm going to be honest. With the changes in our diet and in our health and the less sugar we have in our
Mhm.
diets, I always feel like my memory is so much better
Yeah.
because we're eating healthier.
Yeah. For sure.
And
We're going to talk about that connection because it's absolutely true. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm not a young chickadee. So
Yeah.
so
Well,
like those plights of, memory loss at this age, I don't see. Knock on
good.
wood. I'm not seeing those yet.
Great. Great. And we're going to talk about the things to look for and how it presents when it's, in our 40s and 50s compared to what we think of it's going to look like. I notice for myself, I have those times of like, where did I put my phone down? Or like, why did I walk in this room? You know, and yet, like, I can sing to you every lyric of Rent, both, the double disc soundtrack or like every word of an Eminem album from, 30 years ago. But why I walked in this room is unknown.
And and sometimes I feel like we question ourselves, is that a decline or is that just our brains are so busy with things?
Right. And that's where this gets complicated because the way cognitive decline presents when we're younger is not as much the mass forgetting of things. So let's look at some of this. So we often think of cognitive decline as memory loss, language difficulties, maybe abnormal behavior like cranky and irritable. And essentially what's happening biochemically in the brain is that there's advanced loss of brain cell connections. There's clumps of tangled fibers in the brain. And we often associate this with loss of mental and physical independence, right? Like we think that this is going to mean, having to live in an assisted living facility or losing, activities of daily life as, they're often referred to, but more and more what it actually looks like is a loss of mental focus.
Yes. I think when we
Yeah,
think about that decline, we only see it as the end result. We never really see the process of getting there and what that
yes,
looks like.
you're exactly right. Because by the time we get to symptoms, things have been going on and the process in the body has been going on for a very long time. We tend to lose slow wave sleep, right? So that deeper sleep. We end up with a decline of healthy brain tissue. And then there's mental and emotional. The word in the notes from the professionals is instability. I just don't like the way that makes us, the
Right.
implication of that is a
That
little,
instability or even
right.
a fatigue, maybe.
Yeah. Some big factors in this, and we're going to come back to some of this stuff, disengaging from social networks. So think about what happened over the last few years, right?
Yeah. Just with
So
COVID alone.
exactly. We're going to talk more about connection and community, and our mental health in another episode, but it's critical here, right? Even those who are introverted have a greater tendency toward cognitive decline. Lack of physical exercise is another one. And kind of just living in a place where there's less stimulation, mental or physical stimulation in our lives can play a role. And then some of the big biochemical things like inflammation, and that's even considered now a disease state. So I have to say an oxidative stress, I think I can say, right? But, essentially, I'm trying to choose my words carefully, but I think I'm just going to say it because you guys all know that we are not diagnosed, treating, curing, or preventing any diseases. So, right, with that said, inflammation is a significant trigger for cognitive decline. And this also connects to the immune system. And so it's not necessarily that age-old inherent biological inflammatory response of the immune system, but when that doesn't shut off. So when that doesn't shut off, we end up with this increased inflammation. And it's like one of the doctors describes it as sort of like always drizzling the brain with the recipe for cognitive decline. And so it increases the progression and it creates earlier onset. So we'll talk more about some of the factors, in all of it, but it's all of the things that we talk about all the time, right? Quality nutrition or lack thereof, right? So on the pieces that's causing a lot of this, even with the fructose, it's not the fructose in your fruit. It is the high fructose corn syrup. It is the processed foods. It is the fats in those processed foods. It is the salt in those processed foods and the sugars in those processed foods that are all creating, this thing. It's, like we said before, the lack of physical activity, our increasingly sedentary lifestyle, increasingly less stimulation, and then thinking about toxins. Toxins are a big one. So not just like the high fructose corn syrup kinds of toxins, but even like what are called mycotoxins, like mold and things off-gassing and pollutants in the air, right? So what ends up happening, right? Every human has progressive decline due to age and hormone changes, right? We can speed that up or slow that down. And that happens through lifestyle, right? A big piece, interesting also. So blood pressure going up and down all the time also diminishes the brain. Because what can almost happen is like when we have this increased inflammation, the brain's response is to protect itself. And the way it protects itself is like by contracting almost. So I'm going to talk about obesity and blood sugar for a second as it pertains to brain volume and cognitive function. But up to this point, Cindy, I'm checking in. What's happening? Because this is a lot.
It is a lot. And I think often when you think about the cognitive declines that we see, it is in elderly people. But you think about their community has gotten smaller, their physical well-being is not as great, they're not getting out as often, and that's where you see that decline in older people. But more so now, think about how many of us sit in a cubicle or in an office with headphones and we don't necessarily interact with other people. It's just
Right.
easier not to get out. You don't even leave the house because you're working from home. You're not engaging with other people. I think we're seeing those declines more and more
Right.
because of lifestyle choices and not necessarily from aging. That decline, I think, is happening more because of our lifestyle and not because we're
Right.
70.
Right. And this stuff on obesity and blood sugar is absolutely going to get there. But the other interesting thing to your point on that, this lifestyle thing and how we function, and you even said it before about when I was talking about not being able to remember why I walked in the room because our brain's going all different places. A lot of times what we experience as a memory challenge is actually a focus thing. So the more multitasking we're doing, the less proper, true focus we have on something. And that impairs how it programs in the mind, like how our cognitive function actually functions.
Yes.
So jumping to the end, right? But the more we can work on our focus will help all of this.
Yeah, just focusing on that. This is what I'm doing, almost putting blinders on to what you're doing and not doing 100 things at once. I think we all have that running to-do list in our head that, oh, well, I'm here, I'm going to do this. Oh, and you don't focus on why did you come into the room? You come in to get your keys and you're like, wait, oh, well, I'm here, I'm going to do this.
Right.
And then you forget the keys.
Right. We see the thing that distracts us and exactly. Yeah. Okay. So interesting thing here, the relationship between body fat and brain volume or cognitive function. So increase in body fat leads to a decrease in brain volume and cognitive function. Central obesity in midlife increases the risk of cognitive decline, right? So carrying that extra weight around the middle increases that risk independent of blood glucose and cardiovascular comorbidities. I know, I saw that. That was wow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think of it, sorry, and I'm probably getting off task here, how many older women get that little muffin top as they go through menopause and perimenopause? How does
Yep.
that contribute?
Yep. Exactly. I mean, it does, right? Like it contributes for all of these reasons. We're also going to talk about in a second what can happen with that increased estrogen, with the hormonal imbalance there. So on the blood sugar front, blood glucose exerts stress, right, or adverse effects on the integrity of our neurons, which then has significant consequences for cognition, for our brain function, right? It doesn't get the signaling or the organizational cues that it used to get from insulin because insulin affects the thyroid affects the insulin production, the insulin affects endothelial function, the cells in the lining of our blood vessels. So we end up with, all of these things coming together. And I will tell you where this episode started and why we're having this conversation is because not officially a diagnosis, not officially a term, but Alzheimer's disease is often being referred to as type 3 diabetes.
I've heard that a lot. And I'm sure because it contributes so much so that it's such an incline.
Right. And so it's basically that the neurons in the brain are unable to respond to insulin, right? So insulin is essential for our learning and our memory. And some researchers believe that there's an insulin deficiency that's a major cause of Alzheimer's. And so that's why they're starting to refer to this as type 3 diabetes. Now, it ends up coming back to neuroinflammation, right? Inflammation in the brain and dietary factors and certainly genetic factors, right? There's a lot of things that play into this, but it starts to then show up earlier and earlier because we are eating more of these processed foods, because we are seeing increased inflammation, because the quality of our healthful foods is less than it used to be, right? So we end up having, there's sort of two things that happen at the same time in the brain. There's what's called like decreased energetics. So we think about blood flow, we think about oxygenation, we think about mitochondrial function. And then to your point before, with that decreased energetics, we also have increased demand, right? We're asking more and more and more. And then the inflammation also puts a demand on the brain, right? And so I said this earlier, but it's part of our immune system. So this has been shown, some of those plaques, research shows that those plaques have pathogens in them. So they've seen gingivitis, they've seen candida. And so what can happen is like our innate immune system is fighting and then it's not turning off. And then we end up with this steady state of inflammation and inflammatory response that is supposed to heal and calm, but it doesn't, right? It's this low grade inflammatory immune response that might be because of mycotoxins like mold or other things that are in environment or pesticides or all these other things that are coming at us. And that burden is so much greater than it was for other generations, right?
Yeah.
That it's different. So then adding to, like we were talking about before, the 52-year-old woman who's showing up. So the way this ends up happening is our bodies are working on overdrive to detoxify all those things, right? Like all these toxins and things that we come in contact with all the time. And for a lot of people, those toxins can end up in the bone. So then with menopause, we talked about this a little bit in our bone health episode from the end of last year. There are what's called osteoclastic bursts is the way some of these researchers are referring to them. And so it's essentially there's these bursts of the osteoclasts in the bone, and it's re-releasing toxins into the system that have been stored in the bone. So our body is fighting these toxins, right? Our body is also exhausted from everything that it's always doing. And now the way this is showing up, how it's presenting in that 52-year-old menopausal woman is not so much in the massive cognitive decline and disorientation and things that we typically expect. It's showing up in more of like executive function, right? Like the front of the brain. So a hard time planning, facial recognition, word finding, calculating the tip on a check is a big one. And it often manifests as depression. It shows up looking like something else.
That we don't even notice it because
Yep.
it's something else. We wouldn't even think at 54 that that's what it is, that it's a cognitive decline.
Right. And the bottom line is that there isn't any one thing that causes cognitive decline. It's what we call multi-causal, right? Sound really smart at your next dinner. It is multi-causal. So you have the estrogen deficiency. You can end up with testosterone deficiency contributing, low thyroid, insulin resistance, right? All these other neurotransmitters are decreasing too because a lot of times we're not getting the building blocks that we need. Here's the good news. It used to be thought that there was no treatment and no cure. Now we know that not only is it preventable, that we can reverse it if we know early. We can prevent it with some lifestyle factors. What do you think?
And that's the good news.
Exactly.
It's not your future. Like you can
Doesn't have to be.
Slow it.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to shift into all the things that we can do. Sound good?
Yes. It's not all doom and gloom.
Exactly. I'm never going to give you doom and gloom without some answers, hopefully. Right? So really quick, we'll take a break for our partner from this episode, then we'll come back with all the things that we can do. Friends, if you are a fan of Salad with a Side of Fries podcast and looking for how you can support the show, we've got you covered with our awesome merchandise. So what's still available on the website is really the fan favorite pieces. So as we're talking about memory today, maybe these are the perfect things to remind you of your health, right? To remind you of everything you learn from Salad with a Side of Fries. So we have a muscle tee that says you can't outrun your fork. We also have ones that just say hashtag team salad or hashtag team fries. So lots of fitness gear, the gym towel, the water bottle. The gym towel also you can choose hashtag team salad or hashtag team fries. The tote bag, you can choose what team you're on. Use that for the grocery store or the farmer's market. There's also sweatshirts, a cropped hooded sweatshirt, a quarter zip. I love the quarter zip for this time of year too because it's a pretty lightweight long sleeve. And then the motivational water bottle, I use it all the time. People go, what's that? Right? And then you get to share the show. So show off your love for the podcast. Share it if you are team salad or team fries. Hashtag team salad or hashtag team fries. So head over to our website, asaladwithasideoffries.com/merch and browse the full collection. Snag the official Salad with a Side of Fries mug, perfect for sipping a little chamomile tea before bed or while enjoying the latest episode. Or also, I'm a big fan of the wine bag, balanced. So take a piece of the podcast with you wherever you go. Maybe these are your best anchors to remind yourself of your commitment to your health and spark up conversation with somebody else. So simply text the word fries, FRIES, to 844-947-4846, and we'll send the link right to your phone. Again, simply text the word fries, FRIES, to 844-947-4846. This is a toll-free number. Standard text and data rates may apply. Okay. Active prevention. We really want to start by 40. So I turned 40 last fall. This is on my radar, right? We're talking about it. But also, no matter how old we are, let's do the things.
It's never too late to start good habits.
Exactly. And especially when it comes to this, again, even though there are some factors that may be genetic, more and more we're seeing the genetic-based cases as less and less a percentage of the total cases. So it makes the argument for doing these things. We can improve our memory. We can improve our brain health. There are really 4 places that I think of to focus on. So 1 is the gut, 2 is sleep, 3 is low glycemic impact nutrition, and 4 are the building blocks.
Gosh, where have I heard these before?
Well, funny you should say that. Where have you heard these things before?
I'm sure there are episodes for all of these things.
Right. Exactly. And all of these things are fundamentally the same things that we're doing for everything else. Right? Like, it's not like all of a sudden we have to have a whole new list of things to protect our cognitive health.
I'm going to say that because when you pick at least one of those things, like just removing a little bit of sugar from your diet, making that small change, you will notice a change in your sleep habits. I know I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just making those one small change, you'll start to see they kind of roll into the next thing.
Yep. Exactly. So how do these specifically for this conversation, right? Like, how do they play into it? So we have a lot of episodes. We've had a couple recently on the gut. We have a couple more coming up because the gut is so important for all of this, right? So gut bacteria use amino acids to create neurotransmitters. Well, we talked about how neurotransmitters are declining. That also plays into the building blocks piece because we need these amino acids. We got to give our body the building blocks. A healthy gut environment also supports serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, right? Neurotransmitters. And bacteria in the gut are also part of healthy cortisol levels, right? Neurotransmitter production. So the gut barrier and our immune health, right? It's all connected and it all trickles into everything, down the line and throughout the body, right? So one of the interesting things is that the people who end up with cognitive decline connected to a lot of the toxins do very well and see improved symptoms with detox. Now, I say that with the understanding that I want everybody, we have an episode, I want to say it was January of 2020, called Debunking Detox. And we want to look at, we've also done the body's daily detox, right? So we want to look at some of those episodes to understand proper detoxification and supporting the liver and supporting our lymphatic system and supporting all that. Because by the way, there's a lymphatic system in the brain called glymph. So we want to do this in a way that's truly supportive and truly accomplishing the task, right? Versus a lot of things that we hear about, that use the word detox, but may or may not really be addressing what we're looking for. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, with sleep. If you sleep like crap, you're going to be old, right? You're laughing. Thank you.
I'm laughing. I strongly believe in a good bedtime.
Yeah.
Like I even set my Fitbit. It tells me at 9:15. Well, it tells me at 8:30 to shut off my devices. At 9:15, it tells me to get ready for bed. And I am in bed by 9:30.
Ooh, good for you. Yeah. It's not about the actual time. Like, think about how you tick and what your best time is. Like, trying to artificially force yourself to function at a time of day that's not your best time isn't necessarily helping you. But to think about how do you adjust your activities, how do you adjust your day to work for you and work for your sleep so that we are getting that quality rest. Lack of sleep ages you and ages your brain, right? We did that episode, The Ultimate Biohack, all about sleep.
I will say I do believe in that bedtime because I am more of a morning person. So even though it's an early bedtime for many, but I'm up by 4:30, 5 o'clock naturally without the alarm. Most times I'm up before my alarm because I've gotten into those healthy habits that I know that this is what my body needs to function. But think about how many times when you sleep bad, how the next day you can't focus, you have that headache.
Yep, you're craving sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, I mentioned before the lymphatic vessels in the brain. So this is part of the lymph system, the lymphatic system. We have these lymphatic vessels. They extend from the spine through the brain. They are activated during sleep. It helps promote the elimination of debris in the brain. # important. Right? I don't know how else to say it. you know?
It's your brain's housekeeping.
Yeah. Essentially, the way we think about all of this stuff is like, if part of cognitive decline is the brain size declining because it's protecting itself, right? Then how do we turn down the volume on the factors that are making the brain feel like it needs to protect itself, and then turn up the volume on what we call trophic factors or growth factors, right? So sleep is one of those things. Quality nutrition is one of those things. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Brain plasticity, keep learning new things. Get some activity in, right? Blood pressure, keeping your blood pressure, in healthy ranges is a major factor in brain volume. Exercise also sends signals for the brain to produce BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. We have done a nutrition nugget on BDNF. We're going to talk a little bit more about it because it's incredible for brain health, but activity, learning new things, right? And with the gut health, right, making sure that we're also minimizing these symptoms, minimizing the things that the shrinkage is, trying to protect against. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So then part of that is also the low glycemic impact nutrition. Everything we talk about when it comes to nutrition is low glycemic impact, right? It's about understanding how the foods we eat impact our blood sugar and our insulin response. It's not about never eating things that we enjoy or never having, the Reese's peanut butter cup like you were talking about, right? It's about how do we have them so that it doesn't impact our blood sugar the same way? And when do we have them? And are we using them in a proportion to the rest of our nutrition that keeps our body functioning well on all fronts? You look like you're going to say something.
It's just such a large circle of things. If you start with your gut health
Mm-hmm.
and you're eating the right things, you're obviously fueling your body. You fuel your body with good things. You sleep better. You have
Yep.
that cognitive ability. You're willing to go outside and take a walk, get out in the fresh air, meet with friends. It all starts with that healthy food, I believe.
Yes, absolutely. Amino acids. Okay, amino acids are the building blocks for neurotransmitters. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein. So eating protein provides the body with amino acids. Okay. Now, as we age, we aren't as great at breaking down protein. So again, it might make the argument for maybe some supplementation, maybe ensuring that we're getting some building blocks, but having a greater commitment to the protein, right? So amino acids are critical for memory, for recall, and recovery. Memory, recall, and recovery. Performing daily tasks, we need amino acids. Performing repetitive tasks, we need amino acids. Our mental health is often a function of our muscular health. Our muscular health relies on amino acids. Amino acids also create hormones, right? Hormones are part of age. They're part of mental health. They're part of cognitive well-being. All of these things. Like, again, it's everything fits together, right? Hydration. Just a 2% increase in brain hydration can promote concentration, memory, recall, and reaction time. Proper hydration is linked to productivity, healthy mood, and mental emotional balance. Cognitive function, sensory fitness, reaction time, and hydration status are all linked. I know.
I'm like, oh, okay.
I know. All of a sudden, our water has new meaning.
Right.
Right? And remember, hydration is about more than water, as we all take a sip. Right? Hydration is about more than water. Hydration is also about minerals. So making sure that we're getting our minerals. Omega-3s. So EPA for brain health. DHA also for brain health. But interestingly, if you have enough EPA, it can actually be converted into DHA, but that's a long process. But EPA is more about like mental emotional needs. structural brain function and brain volume. DHA is a lot about the nervous system and yes, the brain. It's like quality of thought and the hippocampus and nerve transmission and that reaction time and memory. So EPA and DHA, those are your omega-3s, right? The kinds of omega-3s that we're really looking for. So that brings us to building blocks, right? That fourth piece. Amino acids, minerals, omega-3s. Direct support for the amygdala and hippocampus are those amino acids and vitamins and minerals. They can help support our brain chemistry even during and after times of stress. All of these, like the amino acids, vitamins and minerals, and even some botanicals, right? And herbs, mental focus, alertness, attention, the cerebral cortex, the hippocampus, the amygdala. I mean, we're hearing these words that we've heard a lot, and essentially it's all about our ability to create memories, to recall, to stay focused, to pay attention to things. L-tyrosine is an amino acid. There's some research that a gram of L-tyrosine has been shown to assist in our ability to switch between cognitive functions. So read multitasking, right? We need L-tyrosine. In addition to like a lot of the amino acids, because that's just one, there's a lot of them. Vitamin C, B complex, magnesium, they're all like cofactors for the amino acids to work. So we need all the things together, right? BDNF, the brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It's really associated with cognitive health. Exercise increases BDNF. Meditation can improve and increase BDNF. We essentially just need stimulus, chlorogenic acid in green coffee, omega-3s, purple foods, short-chain fatty acids, all feed BDNF. Short-chain fatty acids we think of as those postbiotics. So in our gut health, one of our gut health episodes, we talked about prebiotics, right? Fiber, probiotics, the gut bugs, and postbiotics or peribiotics. Those are the short-chain fatty acids. And there's a link in all of this also, right, to learning, higher order thinking, using the prefrontal cortex of the brain, mental emotional health and healthy aging. BDNF is huge for all of this. And a lot of this comes down to energy. So then people will say, well, what about caffeine? Right? Cindy, was that going to be your question? Let me pause. Do you have questions? I feel like I'm just still going and going. Tell me what's happening.
No, I'm taking lots of notes.
Okay.
I'm taking lots of notes to make sure like the vitamins and things that I'm taking are quality and have those.
Yeah. And there's a lot of nuance to all of this. Like I didn't dedicate a ton of time in here to vitamins, minerals, botanicals, and things like that we can do an episode that's on those things specifically for cognitive health because there's a lot. Even as we're saying this, like curcumin is one that's huge for brain health. Now my brain's in a whole rabbit hole of things. Like basically we hear of a whole category called nootropics, right? So those are ingredients that help our cognitive function, like those amino acids, like L-tyrosine and L-glutamine and, all those things. But I want to not go down that rabbit hole for a second because we can come back. I want to be cognizant of all of our capacity to take in information.
Right.
Right. So interestingly, caffeine can support BDNF and it can help with immediate focus. But because of the way caffeine functions, we want it with B vitamins. We want it with adaptogenic herbs in order to have more than just the immediate, right? It's the same thing if like just focusing on sugar or just focusing on caffeine is like one of my mentors says, it's the wrong side of the energy curve, right? We want the other side of the energy curve where it's sustained and healthful rather than immediate and short-lived. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I think I said it before, but I'm going to say it again. Learn new things. Practice focus, right? And it comes down to those four things, right? We have gut health. What was the second one? Do you remember? Check your notes, pop quiz.
I was like, wait, no, I got to go back to my physical exercise.
Sure.
Connection and community.
Yeah.
And the biochemical.
Yeah. So the four
Sleep.
things we started with, yep, sleep. So
Sleep.
it was the gut, sleep, the low GI nutrition, and the building blocks, right? Giving our body what it needs. Similar to how you were saying you've taken your whole process of step by step.
Yes.
Think about it this way. Track your own lack of attention. Maybe practice mindfulness meditation. Practice being centered and focused. See what you can do to minimize, or dare I say, stop distractions, right? One of the best things to do is to work in blocks of time. There's something called the Pomodoro technique, where we work for short periods of time and then take breaks, and it's all planned and timed, and you use a little timer. That might be great with your students, by the way. You're a teacher.
Yeah.
Pomodoro technique is great, but working in blocks of time, engaging your brain, watch your caffeine and sugar, stay social.
There you go.
We did a lot. Like I said, I think this is the first of episodes, many potential episodes on this topic so that we can dig deeper. But the big thing I want everybody to understand is that this is no longer late in life, and it is no longer unpreventable or uncurable in a majority of cases.
In a majority of cases, it's usually just your lifestyle choices.
More and more, we're seeing that. And there are certainly genetic factors that can increase the propensity, right? So one of the doctors I want to reach out to for this has more, he can speak more to the role of the genetics and which genes, and can talk to us about some of the testing that we might want to do, whether it's blood tests or cognitive testing and those kinds of things too.
It's definitely something that we should all be aware of.
Yes. Yes.
No matter your age.
Right. And like we said, it's, our prevention and our activity and our awareness, we want to start it at least by 40. So if not now, when, right? Like sooner rather than later. And we'll keep talking about it and we'll keep playing with it. Final thought, something to wrap this up?
I guess it's never too late to make those healthy choices, those small changes that will affect the rest of your life. I think if you're following Jenn and you're a podcast listener, you know that those little changes that Jenn talks about and introduces, those are the things that are going to get you to 107, give you that quality of life.
Yeah. We want to die young at a very old age.
Right.
Right. I think my final thought is cognitive decline is real. It looks like so many more things than we once believed. And there are so many more factors involved than we once believed. So I don't know. I find this exciting and hopeful. And the other piece about it that's also heartening to me is that the factors that are going to improve all of this are the same things that we're doing for everything else. It's all connected. All right. Let me tell you about our nutrition nugget that'll be on Friday. So a few weeks ago, we discussed the Atlantic diet as a nutrition nugget. This week, we're tackling another one that you've probably been seeing in the headlines and on social media called 75 Hard. Have you heard of it?
I have not.
Okay. Well, on Friday, we're going to walk through what it is and discuss if it might be helpful or a harmful approach for you. So be sure, click the plus sign in the app or the follow button, whatever it is in the app where you're listening, and then your app will alert you when the Nutrition Nugget goes live on Friday morning. It's always at 3 a.m. Eastern, but just in case, right? And as always, everybody, I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or all social media. I'm at Jenn Trepeck, JENNTREPECK. Website is asaladwithasideofries.com. Please pick your platform, send a message. I want to hear your takeaways, your ideas, your questions. This is also the easiest way to learn more about working with me as your health coach. Cindy, thank you again for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. And of course, everybody, if you are not already, join our membership program by going to glow.fm/saladwithasideofries to show your support for this podcast, this community, and most importantly, support your health. You'll get this week's recipe for the Green Goddess Spring Salad, and the article from our friends at Levels is fructose behind Alzheimer's disease, connected to this week's episode. So listen to the episode and then read the article. So until next week, consider if your memory challenges are really an indication of some cognitive decline. And we might want to eat a little better, sleep a little more, focus on that gut health, and give our body the building blocks that it needs. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.